What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another third-party review, and a third-party review that's taken entirely too long to come to fruition. I don't know why we had to wait so long for a G1 Jazz. I don't know if anyone was, scared of Takara making one or what, but, I mean, we've been needing one of these guys forever, and finally, Make Toys has released their Downbeat, and, yeah, he is awesome. And let me just come right out of the box and say, it's amazing. It's a great toy. It has some flaws, and we'll address those. Some things that are in need of a little fix, not much of a fix. Mine didn't really have the problem, but I'll show you what to fix on yours if it does have a problem. Yeah, it's a great Jazz. I could easily just kind of gloss over this and say how wonderful it is, show you the modes, blah, 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 be done with it. I'm going to be critical of this thing, because since Jazz is my favorite character, I think we have to be critical of this, and we can't just be super excited like a fanboy and say, yay, it's G1 Jazz. But yay, it's G1 Jazz, So let's talk about the car mode. The car mode is awesome. It is the 935 that sort of Jazz is. The real 935 has a different rear end. It's kind of like this one actually combines a 935 and a 911, but that's okay. That's kind of what Jazz did. When we come around to the back here, this to me is the ugliest part. Now, I understand that these holes here are designed for the accessories, which we'll show in a minute, but the orange paint here, on almost all the pictures I can find, the taillights are still actually red. There is a white one, a picture online of a white one where there's a majority of it is like a marker signal to turn left or turn right, and a tiny little red taillight. What I really would have liked to have seen would have been this painted red, and even better would have been an accessory for when you're not using these accessories to just kind of plug in here and give it some like plastic lenses on there. I mean, even if you cast it in this darker plastic, it might make the orange not look so obnoxious. And then there's these things. And these things are atrocious in the car mode. There's really no two ways about it. It breaks up the car's line here. I really would have liked to have seen that be filled in somehow. And these have such a minor payoff in robot mode that it completely destroys the rear end of the car. An otherwise beautiful car, it destroys it for, what is this, a centimeter of payoff in robot mode? And I'll show you when we get there. I don't think that these were necessary. I think that this was a waste of time. And personally, I would have liked the look of this without these better, with just a little bit of robot mode showing, because I think that that looks better than these obnoxious white bumper falling off look. If these things were not pinned in, which they are unfortunately, I would probably just go ahead and unscrew them and take them out. One other thing I want to point out, he does have a 4 on his door. If you look real careful, you might still be able to see that. The repro labels that were made available for this guy looked fantastic, but you had to put the sticker over the whole door, and I hate when they do that because usually it's a different color than the car. So I took some 91% rubbing alcohol and a paper towel and just took the 4 off. I'll cut out my repro labels and put them on the door, and I think that'll look a lot nicer. The details on the rims, it is the proper rims. I believe on the real car they're supposed to be orange. I can't quite remember, but whatever. The gold looks awesome, and the just that wire spoke wheel looks really nice. Thank God they came through and fixed the square front end. That was the big detractor of this Jazz. If you're going to a G1, glad you did it this way. You can see the robot mode head there. I suppose you could turn it around and you wouldn't see it. But it's okay. The spoiler, nice. Everything's looking real good. Just really hate that. So we got some accessories here that we can use in his vehicle mode. And those are the speakers that routinely we've kind of seen Jazz employ throughout the show. And they plug into these little awkward holes in the back here. Just like this. And then you just kind of rotate them in position. And there you go. Jazz has his speakers. You can bring them up. You can bring them out, whichever one fits your sensitive sensibilities. So let's do a little comparison here. Here is the Generation Toys Jazz, which is a much newer 911 with Jazz stripes on it. And you can see just the overall size. It's nice. It's a good MP size car. Now, I watched my good friend Skullface's review on this this Jazz after I got it, and he said one thing he wishes it had done is that he wishes all this was painted white for an extra bit of pop. I love my buddy Skullface to death, but I disagree with that entirely. See, here's the thing. So this is not, I don't think this is painted. I can't tell. No, it is painted. It's got a like a metallic gloss on it, which looks nice. It looks really premium, and it's fine next to the MP cars, but my problem is when you bring in the MP cars here. Now this still looks fine and everything, but in terms of Jazz, now I don't have wheel jack here. This is obviously exhaust, but exhaust is cast white plastic on anything that's not painted. In fact, only the colored Lamborghini brothers actually are painted. It's yeah, like wheel jack and prow, like all the white stuff is cast white, which looks much more appropriate when you have this. I mean, when you put these next to each other, the whites look reasonable. This looks a little bit much. Again, it's fine for an MP shelf. It definitely brings it up, but in terms of matching the aesthetic of the MP car, I feel like the cast white is just fine. And it's not a bad cast white, like you still get a gloss off it, so that's real nice. And it's vibrant, and that vibrancy is real nice to me. Going back to my buddy Skullface, one of the things that he kind of pointed out with the previous review is if you ever took a look at the KFC Simba, he doesn't have a whole lot of paint, which matches the aesthetic of Star Saber. In this case, this matte white, or this cast plastic white, really kind of matches the aesthetic of what you've got going on with the other MP cars, which I just think works to its benefit personally. So getting this guy transformed was a little complicated at first, but it really didn't take long to figure out how to do it. Now the instructions tell you to do the front end first and then the feet. We're going to actually go the other way, do the feet first and then the front end, but either way you still have to start by kind of separating these pieces here and get all this stuff to pop apart. That's going to let the top portion of our car come unpegged just like this, and you can bring that up. And let's bring this up so we don't miss anything, and go ahead and just fold this in just like that, and eventually we'll fold that in, but that's what we need for now. With that out of the way, go ahead and rotate these doors up. And the reason I do the legs first is it's just a preference of mine. I prefer to be able to stand the robot and then work with the top as opposed to having the top just kind of dangling around there. So coming down to the legs here, separate this back window from this piece like that so it comes out like so. We can split the legs here. Now you want to take this piece here, and there's this rotation joint right here, so once this is separated we can take this and kind of rotate this up and try to get it completely out of the way, and in the process we'll end up moving these stupid little white pieces that actually make it a little more complicated to transform than it needs to be. We'll do that again for this side here, just like that, and get it as far out of the way as you can, because things have to swing on through here. So now we're going to take these tabs here and open them up, and we'll do one leg at a time. Now one thing that may happen is the top may come off here for you. If it does, all it does is just pop right it back into this track. So just be aware of that. And this part is probably the one part of the instructions that confused me at first, but once you get it, it's not so hard. You want to kind of grip the toy and kind of, this should click out of place. And you can see as that happens, all this stuff is coming around here. And it should swivel all the way around and kind of lock in place. So now, once you have this here, this is where you want this back window piece to kind of tab into the leg. Now this side here specifically tends to be a problem for people. Now mine seems to be cast better, but let me take this off and show you. You see how this is angled? For some people, it's not angled like that. So if you do have a problem, it's because this kind of, like, you can see how close it just touches that material. And if there's anything off, I mean, it's still touching that material there. So if there's any little bit of like roughness to it, it's not gonna go straight down. It kind of sits a little bit on an angle like this. So just take a small file, like a pocket knife, even a knife, you could scrape it away until that actually can clear this without any real problem. So anyway, with that back in place, this will come down and you just tab that into place like that. The other side is not really a problem with that, by the way. So now we can come back here to this piece, take the back of the Porsche here and bring it around and rotate the spoiler so it's facing down. You'll see you have that tab there. Tab this thing into it, which does require this little joint to swivel around. And then you can bring this kind of up and in place, and there's a little tab here and like a suggested hold down here. It doesn't really tab very strongly, but it should serve its purpose. And you know what? We might have messed up just a tiny bit. Anyway, we'll see in a second. Take this piece, open it up, open up this, and yep, we needed to still have this out of the way for a second more. There we go. We'll just bring this down around here and bring that heel spur out and then do that. So I'll show you that proper on the next foot just so you understand what I had to do there. And this piece here is useful to kind of start working that free while you still have access here too. Am I plugged in there? I can't see if it's plugged in. Yeah, we're good. I think. There we go. Perfect. And I think I undid my knee here. That's fine too. So once we have this, obviously our foot is free to come out of this gray flap here and rock it down on this whole joint here so it actually comes lower than the rest of the car, and you can close that up. From here, finish bringing this circle piece around, the semicircle I should say, and just kind of make sure that you have this all cleaned up again. There we go. And if this came off, just bring that back down. And you can see mine doesn't really have the problem. Well, I guess it does have it a little sitting flush, but not as bad as I've seen some people's. So anyway, let's try to do the second foot a little bit with less trouble here. So bring this thing to swivel. Oh, forgot to open that door. Bring it so it swivels here. Make sure that we try not to slice our wheel. We can bring this back more if we need to let it clear. And you can see this rotation joint here where it just turns around. And it should plug in on the other side up there. So now with this stuff out of the way, let's get this little white piece out and we can bring this part of the car around so we can bring the heel spur down. With that out of the way, we can pull this half circle down like that, and that should meet that little white piece. Undo this, which can be a little tough. Bring the spoiler around, and spoiler should, or the back of the car should plug in with the spoiler down, and then bring the whole thing forward like this, and you should have that like cohesive look on the leg like I have here. I have to adjust this one just a tiny bit more. There we go. So now we can take this, slide it down and in place and peg that closed. I suppose we can open this and bring his foot swivel all the way down. So that's the legs. And now he can stand. So now we'll move on to the top of the robot, which is a bit easier, and I think the more fun one to transform. Did I have... Whoops. This one here is not sitting low enough. That might be why it was looking a little funny. There we go. That's better. You didn't see that, but I had this actually up like this, which is causing a problem. There we go. Anyway, up to the top here, we're going to flip these out here, which do require you to kind of pull the front a little just to kind of loosen them. Bring this red piece down. Then you can take these and start swiveling them out. They're a little difficult because you do end up running into this red piece and this tire piece, but you should be able to get it all the way through like this with just a little bit of rotation on the shoulder piece. So we'll do that again. A lot of it is kind of rotating pieces while you're manipulating the joint. So once you've got that done, and you actually could have extended this piece here first if you wanted, so it's a little further from the wheel. I always tend to forget that step. Anyway, so once we have that, take these wheels, fold them in. They should clip in real nicely. Leave this red piece down. And we can put this ab crunch that I accidentally pulled out back in position. From here, you want to slide the arms down on these pins in the back here, like so, on each side. And then take the whole front of the car, squish it together, should clip in the center lightly, and then these front tabs here and the tabs on the arms, if everything is right, you should get them so they plug into the two holes on the front here and the holes here on the wheels. So it can take a little bit of messing around to get it all to fit properly. I find kind of do one side and work my way around to the other side and get it into its proper position. And then just kind of clip everything down. Making sure that our chest is actually closed. That's probably one of the more difficult parts. I mean, the legs are fairly difficult, but this is at least the most difficult part of the top of the robot. So we'll go ahead and take this stuff, and you can see it does have this tendency to come unclipped. Take this, close the forearm here, bring it down. This little hollow should actually be in towards his chest, and flip his fist around. You don't actually have to flip the fists around when it's going back, but I like the thumbs to be tucked up away in there. So bring this around like that. We got the fists. Take these, rotate them, and you have two options. We'll talk about that in a second. Bring the head here, and it just kind of sits down in here. There's no connecting piece or anything, which is not a great decision, but ultimately it really doesn't affect anything. So now we're on the last bits. We can fold that piece of the hood away here, and you have the options. You can leave the doors out to the side like this, or you can just take them and fold them straight down like this, and then bring the roof of the car up, and you can see like it's kind of designed to slot there, just like so. And we've got Jazz. And I think that looks great. I am partial to the doors being out. It's just the way I prefer to see it. I know that's the toy thing, but that's just, I don't know, it fits the aesthetics with the cars, so I'm going to keep mine out like this because I like how that looks. So let's talk about Jazz's articulation here. You saw the head is on this rocker thing, which kind of can cheat them up and down if you want. The actual head looks like it's on a ball joint, I believe. The head can pull the helmet off so you can switch out the faces. I hate the faces. I will show you them in a minute. You'll probably hate them too. Not unless you have questionable judgment, I guess. I don't want to say your judgment's questionable, but I don't know why you'd use some of those faces. The arms here, no ratchets on here, so hopefully this joint doesn't lose its friction in time. Definitely a problem there, but it's not bad. You do have the rotation here. You can't really get it 360 as far as I've seen without it popping off here. And that is a problem, that this doesn't seem to securely tab that in such a way that you can articulate the arms without the chest kind of coming apart. Like if you kind of push on it so nothing comes apart while you're manipulating it, not a problem, but just something to be aware of. It could have tabbed a little nicer down there. Obvious spot for Autobot logo, though none of the repro labels I had really matched that spot perfectly, and the replacement repro labels specifically for this guy give him a different stripe on his chest, which I'm fine with. You saw he has a waist swivel down here. It's a little hampered by the parts of the car hanging from the back. You could go ahead and work the ab crunch and kind of get it to spin around if that's really important to you. It's not that important to me, but he does have one heck of an ab crunch if that's your thing. Coming down to the legs here. Whoops, let's fix him and then we'll come down to the legs. So coming down to the legs, we do have the articulated hip skirts. So you get good forward, which is ratcheted, and a good backwards. Very nice. Side to side is even ratcheted, no problems there. You do have a thigh rotation. I guess you could go 360 if you needed to. The knee is a little strange to me because it doesn't look very good. Once you start manipulating the knee, you kind of lose all the looks of it, in my opinion. But you do get a little more than 90 if you manipulate that double joint the right way. Really not a big deal. I mean, for most of the jazz poses, I think, that you probably want to put him in, they're going to be more than good enough. Uh-oh. This piece of hip armor is stuck. That's no good. There we go. Make sure you manipulate the sides first when they're up, or the front first when you need the side to go out, because they overlap. I never realized that. That's a pretty dumb decision that could have been made a little easier, or made a little more manageable, I should say. Anyway, coming down to the foot, you saw the whole rocker system. It does have a tilt. It's fine. So let's talk about the things that I think should have been improved here. Well, let's talk about these pieces. Would this bot have looked that much worse if you didn't have these? If there was just the black here and the foot came down? I mean, I understand why they're here, but they completely destroy the rear end of the alt mode for me, and I don't think that they have a huge payoff. If anything, I'm sure we could have figured out some way to flip this up. Also, when this is in vehicle mode, I feel like these should have found a way to kind of slide back more, because there is a little bit exposed, but that's not that big of a deal. Really, it's these things that I don't think add too much. I mean, heck, you can kind of see sort of what it would look like if you were to take that away. Like, it's really a minuscule difference without this here versus that there. You may like that more than me, but to me the alt mode is important too, and you sacrificed it for something very inconsequential. Coming to the arms, the fact that these don't tab in any meaningful way is kind of a bummer. They'd never really be a problem for the most part, but you know, they should have tabbed. I mean, it's not that hard to add a tab there. This here, it works just fine. It could have been a little bit better. So let's talk accessories here, and we're going to start with the next thing that I think is a complete waste of time, the extra faces. I don't know if the people at Make Toys have ever seen somebody smirk. That's not a smirk. That's a guy who looks like he's suffering a stroke and one side of his face is just hanging down when he's trying to smile. It's pretty sad. It's pathetic. this is stupid. Similarly, you've got this one, which it's like the Devastator rage face type thing going on, or maybe Jazz getting shot or something. Like, I don't remember Jazz really screaming like this in the cartoon. I'm sure there's probably a scene like that where he's like yelling or looking angry. But these are the two spare faces Make Toys decided to give us. A ridiculously bad looking smirk and this like angry rage face. Where's just like the smile? Like, this is an awesome face. They did a great job with this face. But what about just like a simple smile? You know, because Jazz was kind of like one of the happier bots in the show. He loved being on Earth. He loved the music, all that stuff. Like, a smile. Why the stupid smirk? Was Jazz cocky? I mean, I guess this is not Jazz, but you know, whatever. That's stupid. You also have these speakers. I don't ever remember them being employed, but my good buddy Dylan sent over a picture to show where they were used in the cartoon, and they just peg right onto the hips here. Just like so. Well, theoretically just like so. So these speakers, of course, you can plug them right in over the shoulder here. I don't remember if they ever were like this in the TV show when he was in his robot mode. If they were, let me know the episode or whatever. I know my buddy Dylan was really curious of that, and like, I honestly don't remember if they were ever used not in vehicle mode. I only remember him transforming back to a vehicle and then playing the music. So let me know if that was something that's been done. There's something kind of feels familiar about them resting on the chest like this. There, of course, is the grappling hook from one episode, and it's a nice little system with a nice little rope on there. I'm not going to undo the whole thing because that would be a pain. But it's a nice little accessory that I totally forgot Jazz had ever used. And for this accessory to work, all you do is take this and plug it into his hand, and that looks just fine to me. I don't know if I would consider this. I mean, I don't think it's strong enough to actually hang Jazz from. I feel like, well, he's holding on pretty okay. I'm just picking him up by this, but I don't know if I would have my figure just hanging from his grappling hook. And then finally, there is the Jazz gun. It's just kind of like this metallic-y silver cast piece. It's fine. It serves its purpose, and I've never tried to put it in Jazz's hand, but let's try it real quick. Yep, just as I thought. He'd be just fine with that. And then the final accessory is the rocket launcher, which does not have this piece come off. It does have a swivel on it, so you can kind of position it however you want. Another good reason not to have any paint on here is because it just like slides over the corner of the back here. So let's bring out some size comparisons. Here is Wheeljack, and I think that looks just great with each other. Here's Bumblebee. We've got Ironhide back here. And finally, with the Masterpiece style review without bringing in the MP Prime, this being the Year of the Horse one, that looks really great together. I cannot complain about seeing this guy on a G1 Masterpiece shelf. So let's get Jazz back into his vehicle mode and let's get out of here. We're going to open all this up. We'll finish with that after. Kind of take these doors, bring them up. And, well, I guess you can keep them to the side for now. Bring this piece up. And this is where things kind of always tend to throw me off, but it's fine. We'll get it worked out. Bring this up on its little sliding mechanism. Also bring the head just through, just so it's out of the way. And then I always kind of forget how these are supposed to look, because basically we want these to fold in and then the fists need to be going up. So your fists, if I recall correct, should still be down. We'll open the forearms here, and then this is actually going to collapse in like this. You can see how it's going to come around, and once we have it here, we can kind of work this all together just like this. And I, like I said, like to rotate the fist just so we don't have any thumb exposed underneath. So there you go. It worked out just perfectly there. We're going to open this one up again. spin this around, close this up, and you can see those hollows were actually designed to encapsulate those little tab mechanisms that only sort of function. Make sure our fist is closed here, and manipulate all this to go past the body work here. Definitely the hardest part of the arms is to get it in and out of this chest cavity. Bring it around, kind of swivel it into position, and see, wrong way on the fist. So we'll bring it around over here, and there we go. We got that in place. With that fixed, we can actually unpeg these, bring them all the way like this, and then we can bring the front of the car forward. But at this point in time, make sure, not like I did before you bring it down, that your doors are up like this and out of the way. Now we can go ahead and bring this forward, making sure our doors clear the front body here, just like that. Let's go ahead and turn Jazz's head and tuck that down here. I don't think that that's going to make a difference. If it does, we'll find out. From here, you can go ahead and close up the side front tires here, and we're pretty much done with the front half of the car. We'll just finish up the doors in this piece when we get done with the legs. So we'll come down to the legs here. I always start by opening these up, and this is one thing I wanted to point out. This is die cast, this is plastic. I hate that this has a silver finish on it, and this is just like a cast plastic. Like, I wish, even with the cast plastic, they still gave it the same silver finish. It would have been nice. Instead, it feels like a shortcut was taken, and I don't care for that. I mean, it's such a good figure. Why take a shortcut? Make it the best it can be. Open up this side panel, slide this upwards. From here, we're gonna unpeg this. Now, to get the back of the Porsche, you want to unpeg it, flip this out, and then you actually need to make sure that this back piece actually kind of clears. So if it's clear for you, bring it up like this and then rotate it around, otherwise it kind of gets stuck. So we have that out of the way. We're gonna bring this heel spur in, and like we did in the beginning, just kind of, well, we can close this, get this piece as far out of the way as you can, and bring this little half circle, quarter circle rotation piece out of the way as far as you can with it. See how that hangs down there? So now that we have that, we'll make sure that this is open, unpeg it from that peg here. It swivels all the way around here, like so, and then this piece slides back, and it should peg into place as you fold it down. Now we can take this part of the car, kind of fold it up and work that rotation joint so it comes there, and just kind of move it past the window and plug it in place. And you can see we're done. If this is still kind of out, just make sure it's in. So we'll do that a second time here. Take this, disconnect it, slide it up, open this gray panel, put the foot away and close it. From here, we'll disconnect the back end, slide it past and around, and put the spoiler in place. Rotate our half circle back in and fold this closed. Oops, fold the heel spur up, then fold it closed. Get this as far out of the way as we possibly can. Disconnect this, slide everything past so it goes around 360. slide the back of the car back, tabbing that into place. Bring the front of the car back down, or well, the sides I mean, of the car back down, past the window, plug it in. Bring your half moon back in place if it's out of place. Peg these together. From here, take all this stuff, kind of bring the doors down so they fit into their proper location when this is all finished. At this point, you kind of want the slight bend on here. Work this back while you still have the bend on it, and then that should let you put a little bit of pressure here and it should fall right underneath there. From here, one final cleanup of our doors. Come around to the front, make sure that this is fully split. Lock the front of the windshield in place, and then lock these in place. And there we go. We have Jazz back in his vehicle mode. This part actually I never had addressed. That will probably have folded up on you if it didn't. That's where it goes. There's really no other place for it to go, so I'm sure you figured it out. So ultimately, I have really no reason to not recommend getting this guy. He's beautiful. He fits in awesome with your Masterpiece collection. He looks great in both modes. He's just got those minor issues of this, which, as much as it bothers me, ultimately it's the back of the car. I would have rather it have not been there, but it's not that big of a deal personally. The faces are a complete loss to me, but I'm never going to use them anyway. There's not a whole ton of Jazz out there. I mean, we got the GT1. The GT1 is great. It's not a G1 version of Jazz, but I'm happy I own it. This guy fits in with G1. And in terms of competition, he's got the Transform and Roll Out one, which probably is not coming out at this point. If it does, well, you'll see it on this channel at some point. And you got the Toy World one. The Toy World one arguably looks better in alt mode. They've nailed the car better than Make Toys did. But the robot mode just looks terrible. This one has the robot mode nailed and only slight concessions taken with the car. I think ultimately, if you're an MP car lover, this is all for you. So this is T2RX6. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll see you next time.